She mistook the billionaire's office for the bathroom. Now he can't stop looking for her. Hello, let's hear another incredible story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. I love narrating stories for you, so get ready. Let's start. The Hamptons mansion loomed before Naomi Ellison like a mountain of expectations. Its white columns and perfectly manicured lawns screaming old money and strict protocols. She adjusted her simple black uniform, clutching her worn leather bag closer as the morning fog rolled in from the Atlantic, carrying with it the salty scent of possibilities and fears. "Remember," she whispered to herself, reciting the mantra that had gotten her through the past 3 years of caring for her mother. Invisible and efficient, just like a shadow. The house staff entrance felt like a portal to another world. The gleaming marble floors and subtle scent of lemon polish were a far cry from the cramped apartment she shared with her mother back in Rochester. A quick glance at her watch confirmed she had exactly 12 minutes before her shift officially started. Plenty of time to locate the staff facilities and change into her uniform. Mrs. Henderson, the stern-faced housekeeper who'd hired her, had rattled off directions during yesterday's orientation, but the maze-like corridors all looked identical. Third door on the right, or was it the fourth? The heavy wooden doors stretched down the hallway like a row of identical soldiers. Naomi's phone buzzed in her pocket, a text from her mother's nurse. "Morning check-in complete, BP stable. Remember to breathe, honey." She smiled, letting out a long exhale. This job meant everything. The premium pay rate for the summer season could cover 3 months of her mother's medical bills. She couldn't afford mistakes. The third door looked promising. Mahogany, like the others, but with a slightly different brass handle. This had to be it. Naomi turned the knob, stepped inside, and froze. Steam. Warm, thick steam, and the sound of running water filled her senses. Through the haze, she made out the outline of a glass shower enclosure and, within it, the unmistakable silhouette of a man. A very naked man. Time stretched like taffy as her brain tried to process what her eyes were seeing. Broad shoulders. Dark hair plastered to the nape of a strong neck. Water cascading down a muscled back that belonged on a classical sculpture. The man started to turn. Naomi's survival instincts finally kicked in. She spun around, hand clapped over her mouth to stifle a scream, and bolted. Her shoes squeaked against the wet marble as she fled, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst through her chest. She didn't stop running until she reached what appeared to be a service corridor, ducking into an alcove and pressing her back against the cool wall. Her hands trembled as she covered her face, mortification burning through every cell in her body. "Oh God, oh God, oh God," she chanted softly, sliding down to sit on the floor. "I'm fired. I am so fired." "Actually," a deep voice said from somewhere above her, "I don't believe you are." Naomi's hands dropped. She looked up and up into the most intense pair of grey eyes she'd ever seen. The man from the shower stood before her, thankfully now wrapped in a black silk robe, his dark hair still dripping onto broad shoulders. A slight smile played at the corners of his mouth, though his eyes held something more complex than amusement. "Mr. Kingsley," she breathed, recognition hitting her like a physical blow. The photos in Mrs. Henderson's orientation packet hadn't done him justice. "I'm so sorry. I thought the door I was looking for, the staff facilities." He leaned one shoulder against the wall, crossing his arms. "Yes, I gathered that might have been the case, though I have to admit it's been quite some time since anyone's made such a memorable first impression." Naomi scrambled to her feet, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. "Sir, I cannot apologize enough. It was an honest mistake. No, I would never—" "What's your name?" he interrupted, his head tilting slightly as he studied her face. "Naomi Ellison, sir. Today is my first day." "Indeed it is." Something flickered in his eyes. Interest, curiosity, before his professional mask slipped back into place. "Well, Miss Ellison, consider this a rather unique orientation to the house's layout. The staff facilities are the fourth door, not the third. though I suspect that's a detail you won't soon forget. Was he teasing her? Naomi couldn't quite read his tone, but there was a warmth there that seemed at odds with the austere billionaire she'd been warned about. No, sir, I definitely won't. She straightened her spine, gathering what remained of her dignity. If you'll excuse me, I should report to Mrs. Henderson. Of course. He stepped aside, giving her space to pass, but his eyes never left her face. But welcome to Kingsley Manor, Miss Ellison. Something tells me this summer just got considerably more interesting. Naomi hurried past him, feeling the weight of his gaze follow her down the corridor. Only when she turned the corner did she allow herself to breathe normally again. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling her racing heart begin to slow. 1 hour into her new job, and she'd already crashed into the owner's private space in the most mortifying way possible. This was exactly the kind of attention she'd been determined to avoid. Be invisible, she'd told herself. Stay under the radar. So much for that plan. As she finally found the correct door and changed into her uniform, Naomi couldn't shake the memory of those grey eyes, or the way they'd looked at her, really looked at her, as if she were a puzzle he wanted to solve. She straightened her name tag, squared her shoulders, and took a deep breath. Focus, she whispered to her reflection. You're here for Mom. Nothing else matters. But as she stepped out to begin her first shift, she couldn't quite silence the whisper in the back of her mind that suggested everything had just changed, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Somehow, you've managed to make more waves in 1 hour than most staff do in an entire season. Mrs. Henderson's steel-grey bun seemed to quiver with disapproval as she sorted through a stack of cleaning schedules. The third-floor east wing is strictly off-limits to regular staff. What were you doing up there? Naomi stood in the housekeeper's office, hands clasped behind her back, fighting the urge to sink into the floor. I got lost, Mrs. Henderson. It won't happen again. See that it doesn't. The older woman's eyes softened slightly. You're here because your references were impeccable. Don't make me regret taking a chance on you. A knock at the door saved Naomi from having to respond. A petite woman with copper-colored hair poked her head in, her freckled face brightening at the sight of Naomi. Oh, good, you found her. I've been looking everywhere. She turned to Mrs. Henderson. I'll take her from here. Luna's managed to break 3 crystal glasses in the formal dining room, and we need all hands on deck. Mrs. Henderson waved them away with a sigh. Go. And Grace, try to keep this one out of trouble. Grace, apparently Naomi's savior, grabbed her arm and practically dragged her down the service corridor. Once they were safely out of earshot, she spun around, green eyes dancing with barely contained curiosity. Okay, spill. Is it true? Did you really walk in on him in the shower? Naomi groaned. How does everyone already know about that? Honey, this house has more gossip channels than cable TV. Grace's laugh was warm and conspiratorial. But don't worry. The way I heard it, Mr. Kingsley seemed more amused than angry. And trust me, that's rare. He's been like a storm cloud ever since he arrived last week. They reached the dining room, where another maid was sweeping up shards of crystal. The morning sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting rainbow prisms across the mahogany table. That's Luna, Grace whispered, nodding toward the young woman with the broom. Sweet girl, but clumsy as a newborn giraffe. Been here 2 weeks and already broken half the crystal collection. You're making her look good by comparison. Naomi wanted to disappear into the wallpaper. Fantastic. As they worked to clean up the mess, Grace filled her in on the house dynamics. The staff was divided into clear hierarchies: housekeepers, kitchen staff, groundskeepers, and personal assistants. Mrs. Henderson ruled the domestic staff with an iron fist, while the mysterious Chef Antoine was king of the kitchens. And then there's Victoria Blackwood, Grace added, her voice dropping. Mr. Kingsley's personal assistant. Watch out for her. She's got eyes everywhere and a direct line to the boss. As if summoned by her name, the click of expensive heels announced Victoria's arrival. She paused in the doorway. A vision in a cream silk blouse and pencil skirt. her dark hair pulled into a severe chignon. "Well, if it isn't our newest entertainment." Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes as she regarded Naomi. I hope you're more careful with the crystal than you are with bathroom doors." Luna dropped another glass. Victoria's sigh could have frozen the Atlantic. "Mrs. Henderson, we have a situation in the East Wing that requires your immediate attention." She turned on her heel and strode away, leaving a wake of tension behind her. "Don't let her get to you," Grace murmured, helping Luna with the new mess. "She's been extra intense since—" She glanced around and lowered her voice further. "Since the anniversary's coming up." Anniversary? Of his sister's death. It happened right here in the house, 5 years ago. That's why he rarely comes to the Hamptons anymore. Grace's eyes held a mixture of sadness and curiosity. Nobody knows exactly what happened. The official story was an accident. But, Grace, Mrs. Henderson's sharp voice cut through the gossip. "Don't you have linens to attend to?" "Yes, ma'am. Come on, Naomi. I'll show you where everything is." As they headed to the linen storage, Naomi's mind whirled with new information. A dead sister. A mysterious accident. No wonder the house felt heavy with secrets. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from her mother's nurse. "Had to increase pain meds. Nothing to worry about, but keeping you informed." Naomi's chest tightened. She needed this job more than ever, but already the house's dynamics were proving more complicated than she'd anticipated. "You okay?" Grace touched her arm. "You look worried." "I'm fine." Naomi pocketed her phone. "Just thinking about everything." "Well, think about this instead. Mr. Kingsley usually takes breakfast in his study, but this morning he came down to the kitchen, asked Chef Antoine about the new staff." Grace's eyes twinkled. "Specifically about you." Before Naomi could process that information, a familiar deep voice echoed down the corridor. "Ms. Ellison." Silas Kingsley stood at the intersection of hallways, impeccable in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her yearly salary. His presence seemed to fill the space, making the corridor feel smaller. "A word, please." Grace squeezed her arm and disappeared, leaving Naomi alone with her impossibly handsome boss and the memory of their last encounter. "Sir, I've been informed that the East Wing is off-limits to regular staff." His expression was unreadable. "A rule that exists for good reason." "Yes, sir. I understand. It won't happen again. See that it doesn't." He paused, something flickering in his grey eyes. "Though I must admit, your timing was interesting. Few people can claim to have literally crashed into the truth about this house." "Sir, never mind." He seemed to catch himself, his professional mask sliding back into place. "Carry on, Ms. Ellison, and do try to stay out of trouble." As he walked away, Naomi couldn't shake the feeling that his words held more meaning than she understood. What truth had she crashed into? And why did she have the unsettling sensation that she'd stepped into something much bigger than a simple job? The house creaked around her, as if laughing at her questions. Somewhere above, a door slammed, and Naomi jumped. One thing was becoming clear. Nothing about this summer would be simple. Not the job, not the house's secrets, and definitely not Silas Kingsley. Late afternoon sunlight painted long shadows across the library's wooden floors as Naomi dusted the endless rows of leather-bound books. After 3 days at Kingsley Manor, she'd developed a fondness for this room. Unlike the rest of the house, with its pristine surfaces and perfect order, the library felt lived in, real. You missed a spot. Naomi nearly dropped her feather duster. Silas Kingsley sat in a worn leather armchair by the window, a book open in his lap. She hadn't heard him come in. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't realize anyone was here." Clearly. His eyes held that now familiar mix of amusement and something deeper. "You've been staring at that same shelf for 10 minutes. Either you're a very thorough duster, or something's on your mind." Heat crept up her neck. She had been distracted, worrying about her mother's latest test results. "I'll work faster." That wasn't a criticism. He closed his book, Steinbeck's East of Eden, and studied her. "You know, Most people who work here can't wait to tell me their life story. You're different. You actually try to disappear. Isn't that what good staff does? Is that what you are? Just staff?" The question hung in the air between them, loaded with unspoken meaning. Before she could respond, Victoria appeared in the doorway. "But Silas, the board members are waiting for your video call." Her eyes narrowed at Naomi. "I'm sure Ms. Ellison has other duties to attend to." Naomi gratefully escaped, but not before catching the flash of irritation that crossed Silas's face at the interruption. In the hallway, she nearly collided with Grace, who was carrying a stack of old photographs. "Perfect timing!" Grace pulled her into an empty sitting room. "Help me sort these. Victoria wants them organized for some memorial thing next week." The photos scattered across an antique coffee table, fragments of Kingsley history in silver frames. Naomi's breath caught at one image, a younger Silas, laughing with a beautiful young woman who shared his grey eyes. "That's Rebecca," Grace said softly. "His sister. This was taken about a month before she died." "What happened to her?" "Officially. She fell down the stairs in the East Wing." "But," Grace glanced around and lowered her voice, "Luna swears she's seen her ghost up there. Says that's why she keeps dropping things, because she gets spooked." "You don't actually believe in ghosts?" "In this house, honey, I believe anything's possible." Grace picked up another photo. "Besides, there are too many weird things, like how that whole wing stays locked except for Mr. Kingsley's suite, or why he suddenly decided to spend the summer here after avoiding the place for years." A floorboard creaked behind them. They turned to find an elderly man in a gardener's uniform, his weathered face kind but serious. "Careful with that talk, girls," he said, his voice gravelly but gentle. "Some secrets in this house are better left buried." "Don't mind Mr. Rivers," Grace said after he left. "He's been here forever. Practically raised Mr. Kingsley and Rebecca." Naomi studied the photo again. Rebecca's smile was radiant, but there was something in her eyes. A sadness, maybe, or fear. Her phone buzzed. Not the nurse this time, but her mother. "Baby girl, don't worry about the new treatment costs. I've decided not to do it." Naomi's hands shook as she typed back, "Mom, we talked about this. I can handle it. The job pays well. It's too much. I won't be the reason you're stuck serving the rich and privileged." "Bad news?" Grace asked, noticing her expression. "My mother is being stubborn." Naomi pocketed the phone. "She doesn't understand that I'd do anything for her." "Anything?" Victoria's voice made them both jump. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "How ambitious of you, though I suppose that explains the shower incident." "It was an accident," Naomi said firmly. "Of course it was." Victoria's smile was razor-sharp. "Just like it's an accident that you keep finding ways to be wherever Silas is. Tell me, does your mother know you're planning to sleep your way to a better life?" "That's enough." Silas's voice cracked like a whip. None of them had heard him approach. "Victoria, my office. Now." In the tense silence that followed their departure, Grace squeezed Naomi's hand. "Don't let her get to you. She's just jealous because he actually sees you. Sees me. He doesn't even know me." "Maybe not." Grace gathered the photos. "But I've worked here 3 years, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." Later that night, as Naomi prepared to leave, she found a note in her locker. The handwriting was elegant, masculine. M's. "Ellison, I apologize for Victoria's behavior. It was unprofessional and won't happen again. Also, the library needs dusting again tomorrow. I'll be there at 3. You might find the hidden door behind the mythology section interesting. 3rd bookcase from the window." Naomi's heart raced as she read the note again. A hidden door. Was he testing her, warning her, or inviting her deeper into the mansion's mysteries? She thought of her mother, of Victoria's accusations, of Rebecca's sad eyes in the photograph. Everything in her screamed to stay away, to remain invisible. But as she drove home through the gathering darkness, Naomi knew she would be in the library at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Some doors, once noticed, demanded to be opened, no matter the cost. The library clock struck 3. its chimes echoing through the empty room. Naomi stood before the mythology section, her heart pounding against her ribs. She'd spent the morning caught between anticipation and dread, half convinced she should ignore Silas's note entirely. But here she was. Her fingers traced the spines of ancient books, Homer, Ovid, Virgil, until they found a small lever disguised as a bronze bookend. It moved with surprising ease, and a narrow section of the bookcase swung inward with a soft click. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't come." Silas emerged from the shadows of the hidden room, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. He looked younger somehow, more vulnerable. "I shouldn't be here," Naomi said, but didn't step back. "Probably not." He gestured for her to enter. "But you are." The hidden room was smaller than she expected, more of a study than a secret chamber. Dust motes danced in the light from a single window. Every surface was covered with papers, photographs, and what looked like old medical records. "This was Rebecca's sanctuary," Silas said quietly. "She used to hide here when things got overwhelming. Why are you showing me this?" He picked up a framed photo. Rebecca in a hospital gown, still smiling despite looking frighteningly thin. "Because you remind me of her. The way you watch everything, notice everything, but try to stay invisible. The way you carry secrets like armor. You don't know anything about my secrets. I know about your mother." His grey eyes held hers steadily. "Stage 4 lymphoma. Experimental treatment options denied by insurance. Mounting medical bills." Naomi felt the blood drain from her face. "Have you been investigating me?" "Victoria did. She's thorough." His mouth twisted, though not for the reasons she implied yesterday. "I asked her to look into all new staff after what happened to Rebecca." "What did happen to her?" Silas ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its perfect order. "The official report says she fell, simple accident. Except Rebecca knew every inch of this house. She grew up here, just like I did, and she'd been acting strange in the weeks before, paranoid, scared. She told me she'd discovered something big, but before she could explain..." He gestured helplessly. "You think someone pushed her? I think someone silenced her." His voice hardened. "And now, 5 years later, I'm finally starting to understand why." He moved to a corkboard covered in newspaper clippings and photographs connected by red string. At the center was a familiar face that made Naomi's breath catch. That's my mother." "Yes." Silas watched her carefully. "Olivia Ellison. She worked here 25 years ago. Did you know that? As a nurse for my father during his final illness." Naomi shook her head, stunned. "She never told me. She left suddenly, right after his death. No explanation. 3 months later, the family lawyer changed my father's will." He tapped another document. "Rebecca found these records. She was looking into what happened during those months, and then she died." The room seemed to spin. Naomi gripped the edge of a desk. "Are you saying my mother was involved in your sister's death?" "No." Silas stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and earthy. "I'm saying your mother might be the key to understanding what Rebecca discovered. And I think that's why she's being denied treatment now, to keep her quiet." "That's insane." "Is it? The same insurance company that handles your mother's case handles all Kingsley family matters. Their denial came right after you applied for this job." A horrible suspicion began to form in Naomi's mind. "Did you hire me because of my mother?" Pain flashed across his face. "Initially, yes. But Naomi..." He reached for her hand, and to her surprise, she let him take it. His palm was warm against hers. "The moment you walked into that shower, everything changed. You weren't just a connection to the past anymore. You became real." The air between them crackled with tension. Naomi was acutely aware of how close they stood, how his thumb traced small circles on her wrist. "Why tell me all this now?" "Because I need your help. And because..." He hesitated. "Because I'm tired of pretending I don't feel this connection between us." A noise in the library made them both freeze. Footsteps approached the mythology section. "Quick," Silas whispered. pulling her deeper into the shadows. They pressed against the wall as the hidden door swung shut, plunging them into darkness. Naomi held her breath, hyper-aware of Silas's body shielding hers, of his heart beating fast against her shoulder. The footsteps paused outside, then moved away. "Victoria," he murmured. "She's been watching the library." "This is dangerous," Naomi whispered back. "All of it, I know." His hand found her face in the darkness, thumb brushing her cheek. "Tell me to stop. Tell me to let this go. The investigation, the feelings, all of it. Tell me, and I will." Naomi thought of her mother, suffering in silence, of Rebecca's sad eyes in the photographs, of the way Silas looked at her, really looked at her, like she was something precious instead of invisible. "I can't," she admitted. "I need to know the truth too." The library clock struck 4, its chimes muffled through the hidden door. In the darkness, Silas's breath mingled with hers. "Then help me," he whispered. "Help me uncover what Rebecca died trying to expose. Help me understand why your mother ran all those years ago." "Help me?" "Yes," Naomi said, before she could stop herself. "Yes to all of it." As if in response, the house creaked around them, a warning or a blessing, she couldn't tell. But as Silas's lips found hers in the darkness, Naomi knew there was no going back. She'd chosen her path, for better or worse, and somewhere in the east wing, a window slammed shut, as if the house itself was sealing their fate. "Your mother isn't answering her phone." Grace burst into the staff locker room, face flushed with worry. "I've been trying to reach the number you gave me for the past hour." Naomi's stomach dropped. After the kiss in the hidden room yesterday, she'd asked Grace to check on her mother during her afternoon break. Now it was nearly midnight, and she was just finishing her extended shift. "Let me try." Her hands shook as she dialed, straight to voicemail. Again. "I'll drive you," Grace offered, already grabbing her keys. "Luna can cover for us. Something feels wrong." The drive to Rochester passed in a blur of anxiety and rain-slicked roads. Naomi's mind raced between memories of the kiss with Silas and terrible scenarios involving her mother. She'd been so caught up in the mansion's mysteries, she'd let hours pass without her usual check-ins. Her apartment building looked darker than usual, no light in their window. "To Mom!" Naomi called out as she unlocked the door. The living room was empty, but there were signs of a hurried departure, drawers left open, her mother's favorite sweater missing from its hook. A note lay on the kitchen counter, held down by her mother's wedding ring. "They found me. Don't trust anyone. I'm safe. But you need to get out of that house. What Rebecca discovered, it's bigger than you know. I'm sorry I never told you the truth. Mom." "Naomi." Grace's voice seemed to come from far away. "There's something else. In the bedroom." The bedroom wall was covered in old photographs and newspaper clippings, similar to Silas's hidden room. But these went back further. Young Olivia Ellison in a nurse's uniform, Richard Kingsley, Silas's father, looking frail but smiling, and in several photos, a woman Naomi had never seen before, standing close to Richard. "That's my grandmother," Grace whispered, touching one of the photos. "She was the head housekeeper at Kingsley Manor before Mrs. Henderson, but she died in a car accident the same week Mr. Kingsley passed away." Naomi's world tilted on its axis. "Your grandmother knew my mother? Looks like they knew a lot of things." Grace pointed to a headline, "Kingsley Pharmaceuticals under investigation for illegal drug trials." The article was dated just before Richard Kingsley's death. Naomi's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the lighthouse. 1 hour. Come alone. Go," Grace said, reading over her shoulder. "I'll stay here, see what else I can find." "But Naomi," her green eyes were serious, "be careful. This isn't just about you and Silas anymore." The historic Hamptons Lighthouse stood sentinel against the stormy sky, its beam cutting through sheets of rain. Silas waited at the base, his expensive suit soaked through. "Victoria's gone," he said without preamble, cleaned out her office and disappeared, and she took something from the hidden room, Rebecca's private journal. "My mother's gone too." Naomi showed him the note. Silas, what's happening? He pulled her close, either for warmth or comfort or both. Rebecca was investigating our father's pharmaceutical company. She found evidence of illegal trials, covered-up deaths, but there was something else, something worse. She wrote about a formula. What kind of formula? I don't know. But the night she died, she left me a voicemail. I didn't understand it then. But now, he drew back, meeting her eyes. She said, "The treatment isn't what they claim. Ask Olivia about Protocol Zero. It's in our blood." Thunder cracked overhead. Naomi shivered, not entirely from the cold. Protocol Zero. A classified project from the 90s, top secret, even within the company. The paperwork was destroyed, but Rebecca found a list of test subjects. His voice roughened. "Your mother's name was on it. So was my father's, and Grace's grandmother." Oh God! Pieces started falling into place. That's why my mother's treatments keep getting denied. They're afraid blood work would reveal whatever Protocol Zero did to her. Exactly. And now someone's trying to clean up loose ends. He cupped her face in his hands. "We need to find your mother before they do. Rebecca died trying to expose this. I won't let anyone else suffer the same fate." "Mr. Kingsley?" Mr. Rivers's voice carried through the rain. The old gardener approached, looking grim. "You need to come back to the house. There's been a break-in. The East Wing." "Go," Naomi said. "I'll check the hospital. See if anyone knows where my mother might have gone. Be careful." Silas kissed her quickly, desperately. "Trust no one, even people in the house. We don't know how deep this goes. You be careful too." She touched the wet lapel of his jacket. "Whatever Rebecca found, it got her killed. This isn't just about uncovering the truth anymore. It's about surviving it." They parted in the rain, Silas to his mansion of secrets, Naomi to hunt for her missing mother. But as she drove through the storm, her grandmother's ring heavy in her pocket, she couldn't shake the feeling that everything was connected. Her mother, Rebecca, Grace's grandmother, Protocol Zero, the formula in their blood. And somewhere in the darkness, Victoria was out there with Rebecca's journal, holding pieces of a puzzle that had already claimed too many lives. The lighthouse beam swept across her rearview mirror, momentarily blinding her. When her vision cleared, she noticed a black car following at a discreet distance. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. The hospital records room was dark, save for the beam of Naomi's flashlight. It had taken every favor Grace's cousin in IT owed her to get the after-hours access codes, but somewhere in these files was the truth about Protocol Zero. "Your mother's original medical record should be in Section C," Silas whispered, his breath warm against her ear. "Look for anything from 1998 to 2000. They'd been searching for 2 hours. The silence broken only by the hum of ancient computers and the distant sound of the night shift nurses. Every shadow made Naomi jump, remembering the black car that had followed her from the lighthouse. Here, she pulled out a thick file. Olivia Ellison, admitted September 1999 for participation in experimental treatment protocol. Her hands trembled as she read further. "Silas, look at this. There's a note about genetic markers consistent with subject group alpha, just like my father's file." He moved closer, scanning the document. "And here, response to compound exceeds expectations. Recommend immediate inclusion in Phase 2. A noise in the corridor made them freeze. Footsteps approached, then passed. "We need to move faster," Silas murmured. "Victoria could have already taken this to the board of directors. If they realize we're investigating—" "Wait!" Naomi pointed to a familiar name. "Dr. Alexandra Rivers. Any relation to the gardener?" Silas's expression tightened. "Ah, his wife. She was the lead researcher on Protocol Zero before she disappeared 20 years ago. He never talked about her. But Rebecca was trying to find her." The pieces started clicking together. "That's why he stayed at the mansion all these years. He's been watching, waiting for someone to finally uncover the truth." Mr. Rivers stepped out of the shadows, making them both start. "I wondered how long it would take you." Naomi's heart thundered. "How did you?" I've watched this hospital every night for 20 years. The old man's eyes were tired but alert. Ever since they took Alexandra, she found out what they were really doing with the research, how they were modifying people's DNA without consent. She tried to expose them, just like Rebecca did. He smiled sadly. Just like you're trying to do now. Where is she? Silas asked softly. Safe, hidden. Along with others from the trials who survived. He handed Silas a worn envelope. Rebecca found her 2 weeks before she died. This is what she discovered. Proof that Protocol Zero wasn't about curing diseases. It was about creating them. Creating them? Naomi felt sick. Why? So they could sell the cures. Victoria's voice cut through the darkness. She stood in the doorway, Rebecca's journal in one hand, a gun in the other. Imagine it. Genetic modifications that make certain bloodlines susceptible to specific diseases. Diseases only Kingsley Pharmaceuticals knows how to treat. You knew. Silas's voice was deadly quiet. You knew what they did to Rebecca. I tried to protect you. Victoria's hand shook slightly. When she started investigating, I warned the board. They said they'd just scare her off. I never thought... She swallowed hard. But now you're doing the same thing. Both of you. I can't let you expose this. The company would collapse. Thousands of jobs lost. Research destroyed. People are dying, Naomi said. My mother. Your mother was warned. 20 years ago, and again last week. Victoria's grip on the gun steadied. Mr. Rivers, step away from them. No. The old gardener straightened to his full height. I've stood by silently for 20 years, watched them drive my wife into hiding. Watched them kill that sweet girl who only wanted justice. No more. Then you'll die too. Victoria raised the gun. Several things happened at once. Mr. Rivers lunged forward. Silas shoved Naomi behind a filing cabinet. A shot rang out, deafening in the small space. Then another shot from the doorway. Victoria crumpled, revealing Grace holding a security guard's taser. Behind her stood a woman with copper-colored hair, streaked with grey. Alexandra. Mr. Rivers breathed. Hello, my love. Dr. Rivers helped her husband up. I got your message. All of us did. Us? Olivia Ellison stepped into the room, flanked by 2 more women Naomi didn't recognize. Her mother looked tired but determined. Mom! Naomi ran to her. I'm sorry, baby girl. Olivia hugged her tight. When Victoria started asking questions, Alexandra warned me. We've been gathering evidence, preparing to expose everything. But then you started working at the mansion, getting close to Silas. She looked over Naomi's shoulder. Just like I got close to his father. What do you mean? Silas asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. Richard Kingsley was a good man. He didn't know what his board was doing with Protocol Zero. When he found out, he changed his will to put you in charge, hoping you'd make it right. But they poisoned him before he could tell you the truth. She touched Naomi's cheek. And he made me promise to protect his daughter. The room went very still. Daughter, Naomi whispered. Why do you think they've been blocking your treatments? Alexandra Rivers said gently. Your blood work would have shown the Kingsley genetic markers. You're Richard's daughter, Naomi, Silas's half-sister. The world seemed to tilt. Naomi looked at Silas, saw the same shock and horror on his face. The kiss in the hidden room, the lighthouse, all of it. A groan from Victoria broke the moment. Grace's taser had only temporarily stunned her. We need to move, Alexandra said. Victoria's not the only one they'll send. The board knows you're investigating. They have people watching the mansion, the hospital, the East Wing break-in, Silas realized. It was a diversion. There's a safe house, Olivia said. Alexandra has been gathering Protocol Zero survivors there. We have enough evidence to expose everything, but we need your help. Both of you. Naomi met Silas's eyes across the room. Brother. The word echoed in her head, replacing all her romantic dreams with something different but equally powerful. Family. He gave her a small nod, understanding passing between them. Tell us what you need us to do, Silas said. Outside, storm clouds gathered again, but this time Naomi wasn't running from the truth. She was running toward it. The safe house turned out to be an old bed and breakfast on the outskirts of the Hamptons, its Victorian architecture a stark contrast to Kingsley Manor's cold grandeur. As dawn broke over the Atlantic, Naomi sat on the wraparound porch, trying to process everything that had happened in the past 24 hours. Sister. The word still felt foreign on her tongue. Couldn't sleep either. Silas emerged from the house, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He'd shed his usual perfect appearance. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, dark circles under his eyes suggesting he'd spent the night wrestling with the same thoughts that plagued her. Thanks. She accepted the coffee, noting how he carefully avoided any physical contact. The memory of their kisses hung between them like a ghost. This is complicated. He gave a hollow laugh. That might be the understatement of the century. Inside, they could hear the others moving around. Alexandra Rivers coordinating with her network of Protocol Zero survivors. Grace helping Olivia sort through decades of hidden evidence. Mr. Rivers standing guard at the windows. Did you know? Naomi finally asked. When you hired me, did you suspect? No. Silas ran a hand through his already messy hair. I knew your mother had worked for my father, but this... Rebecca was the one who started putting it together. In her journal, the one Victoria had, she wrote about finding letters between our father and your mother. Love letters. Mom never talked about him. Naomi stared into her coffee. She raised me alone, worked 3 jobs sometimes, all those years struggling, and my father was a billionaire. Silas's voice was bitter. Who apparently loved your mother enough to change his will, but not enough to acknowledge you publicly. He was trying to protect her, Olivia said from the doorway. She looked exhausted but determined. Both of you. They turned to face her. In the morning light, Naomi could see traces of herself in her mother's face, and maybe, for the first time, traces of Richard Kingsley too. The board was already suspicious, Olivia continued, sitting between them. They knew Richard was investigating Protocol Zero. If he had acknowledged Naomi, they would have tested her blood immediately. They would have known she carried the genetic markers they were trying to hide. Like Rebecca, Silas said quietly. She had them too, didn't she? That's why she got sick so suddenly after starting her investigation. Alexandra Rivers stepped onto the porch, holding a thick file. They activated a dormant sequence in her DNA, one they had engineered through Protocol Zero. It looked like natural causes, but it was murder. She handed the file to Silas. Your father discovered they were doing the same to him. That's when he contacted me, asked me to go into hiding and protect the evidence. And now they're trying to do it to Mom, Naomi realized. The denied treatments, the mysterious symptoms. They've been slowly poisoning me for months. Olivia confirmed. Small doses, designed to activate the same sequence, but Alexandra's been helping me fight it. We developed a treatment, Alexandra explained. It can neutralize the Protocol Zero modifications, but we need access to the company's main lab to produce it in large enough quantities. Without it, everyone who was part of those trials is at risk. The annual shareholders meeting is tomorrow night, Silas said. The entire board will be there, along with heightened security and everyone who wants us dead, Grace added, joining them with her laptop. But I found something interesting in the old security protocols. The mansion's east wing. It's not just Rebecca's old rooms up there. There's a private lab, connected directly to the main facility. Silas straightened. Father's personal research space. I always thought it was just for show, but it's fully equipped, Alexandra confirmed. Richard showed it to me once. With access to that lab, I could synthesize enough of the treatment to help everyone affected by Protocol Zero. And expose everything, Mr. Rivers added grimly. But Victoria will have told them we're coming. They'll be ready. Naomi looked at Silas, saw her own determination reflected in his eyes they'd both inherited from Richard Kingsley. Then we'll give them exactly what they expect. What do you mean? They'll be watching for a group trying to break in. She stood, energy coursing through her. But they won't be watching for the grieving son hosting a memorial for his sister. finally opening the East Wing after 5 years. Silas caught on immediately. A private ceremony, the night before the shareholders' meeting. Of course, I'd invite the board members. While we access the lab from the outside, Alexandra finished. Yes, that could work. It's dangerous, Olivia protested. Naomi, Mom. Naomi took her mother's hands. You spent my whole life protecting me. Let me help protect you now. Let me help protect all of us. The porch fell silent, except for the distant sound of waves. In that moment, Naomi felt the weight of everything, her newfound family, the lives at stake, the years of secrets and sacrifice. Rebecca would be proud, Silas said softly, of both of us. There's something else you should know. Alexandra opened Rebecca's journal to a marked page. The night she died, Rebecca wasn't just investigating Protocol Zero. She found evidence that someone on the board was planning to release a new version, Protocol Omega, a genetic modification that could be spread like a virus, affecting not just the trial participants, but their entire bloodlines. The implications hit like a physical blow. Generations of people, their DNA altered without consent, susceptible to whatever diseases the company engineered. Tomorrow night, Naomi said firmly. We end this tomorrow night. As if in response, her phone buzzed with a news alert. Kingsley Pharmaceuticals announces breakthrough gene therapy program. They were running out of time. I'll make the calls, Silas said, already reaching for his phone. Start arranging the memorial. I'll contact our people inside the company, Alexandra added. Get everything in place. One by one, they moved inside to prepare, leaving Naomi alone on the porch. She watched the sun rise higher over the ocean, thinking of Rebecca, of Richard Kingsley, of all the lives shaped by secrets and sacrifice. Tomorrow would change everything. But for now, she let herself feel the strange mix of grief and hope in her heart, mourning the romance she'd lost with Silas, but gaining something deeper, a brother, a purpose, and finally, the truth about who she was meant to be. Kingsley Manor had never looked more beautiful or more threatening than it did on the evening of Rebecca's memorial. Black cars lined the circular driveway, their sleek surfaces reflecting the golden light spilling from the mansion's windows. Board members and their spouses filed in, all appropriate solemnity and expensive black clothing. Naomi watched from Rebecca's old room in the East Wing, her heart pounding. They're all here. Every single one. Of course they are. Silas adjusted his tie in the mirror, his reflection grim. They want to make sure we're really just holding a memorial. The room had been prepared perfectly, photos of Rebecca everywhere, flowers arranged just so. Everything designed to suggest a brother finally ready to confront his grief. Nothing to suggest that Alexandra Rivers was already in the hidden lab below, preparing to synthesize the treatment that would save hundreds of lives. Securities in position, Grace reported through their concealed earpieces. She and Mr. Rivers were coordinating from the gatehouse, monitoring the mansion's surveillance systems. No sign they suspect anything yet. Naomi smoothed her black dress. Designer, borrowed from Rebecca's closet. The similarity between them was striking. They could have been sisters, too. Mom's team is ready. In place. Silas checked his watch. Olivia and the other survivors are waiting for Alexandra's signal. Once she has proof of Protocol Omega, they'll move in with the federal agents. The plan was intricate, depending on perfect timing and more than a little luck. While Silas kept the board distracted with the memorial service, Alexandra would gather evidence from the lab. Meanwhile, Olivia and her team of Protocol Zero survivors would wait with federal agents, ready to move the moment they had proof of the company's crimes. Silas, Naomi caught his arm as he turned to leave. If something goes wrong, it won't. But his eyes betrayed his uncertainty. Just stay with Alexandra. Help her get what she needs. I'll handle the board. Be careful. These people killed Rebecca. They tried to kill Mom. They'll kill you too if they realize. I know. He squeezed her hand, a gesture that felt natural now, brotherly, but they're not the only ones with secrets anymore. Downstairs, voices filled the grand foyer. Naomi recognized several board members from their research. Charles Webber, the CEO who'd taken over after Richard Kingsley's death, Diana Frost, head of research and development, Marcus Chen, chief of security. Ladies and gentlemen, Silas's voice carried through their earpieces as he addressed the crowd. Thank you for joining me tonight. For 5 years, I've kept this wing of the house closed, trying to forget the tragedy that took my sister, but Rebecca deserved better than to be forgotten. I'm in position, Alexandra whispered through the comm, starting the synthesis process now. Naomi made her way through the secret passages they'd mapped out, following the path Rebecca had used years ago. The hidden lab was state-of-the-art, though dust covered much of the equipment. Alexandra worked quickly, her movements precise as she prepared the treatment. How long? Naomi asked. 20 minutes for the first batch. Then we'll need proof of Protocol Omega. Alexandra nodded toward a sophisticated computer setup. Rebecca found the files on that system. If you can access it. A noise from above made them freeze. Footsteps in the secret passage. Someone's coming, Grace warned through the comm. Diana Frost just slipped away from the memorial. Naomi's pulse raced. She knows about the lab. She must have figured out. Hide, Alexandra hissed, shoving her behind a large storage unit. Don't move, no matter what happens. The hidden door opened. Diana Frost stepped in, elegant in black silk, a small pistol held casually in her manicured hands. Dr. Rivers. Her smile was cold. I thought I might find you here, though I admit I expected Victoria to have handled this situation already. Diana. Alexandra kept working, her voice steady. Here to finish what you started with Rebecca. Rebecca was unfortunate, but necessary. She didn't understand the bigger picture. Diana moved further into the lab. Protocol Omega isn't just about profit. It's about control. Imagine it. The ability to regulate entire populations through their own DNA. Above them, Silas's voice continued the memorial service, heavy with carefully crafted grief. But now Naomi could hear the tension in it, knew he must be aware of Diana's absence. It won't work, Alexandra said. The modifications are unstable. You'll create a pandemic you can't control. We've solved that problem, thanks to Richard's research and his convenient death. Diana's smile widened. Just like we solved the Rebecca problem and the Olivia problem, though her daughter proved surprisingly resilient to our treatments. Naomi's blood ran cold. They'd been targeting her too, not just her mother. Speaking of daughters, Diana raised her pistol. Where is Naomi? We know she's here somewhere. All that Kingsley blood going to waste. Several things happened at once. Alexandra lunged for the emergency alarm. Diana fired, and Naomi, acting on pure instinct, grabbed a heavy microscope and swung it hard. Diana crumpled. The pistol skittered across the floor. "At security breach in the East Wing," Grace's voice crackled through the comms. "Marcus Chen is moving with a team. Silas, get out of there." "The treatment," Alexandra gasped, clutching her shoulder where Diana's bullet had grazed her. "We need 10 more minutes." "You've got 5, Silas responded. "They're coming." Naomi grabbed the pistol, standing guard while Alexandra worked. On the computer screen, files began downloading. Proof of Protocol Omega, of years of illegal experiments, of murder disguised as accident and illness. "Got it." Alexandra held up a case of filled vials. "Naomi, the evidence." "Sending it now." She hit transmit, watching as their gathered proof uploaded to multiple secure servers. "Mom, are you receiving?" "We've got it." Olivia's voice was tight with emotion. "Federal agents are moving in. Get out of there, baby girl, both of you." But heavy footsteps were already approaching. Marcus Chen's voice carried through the passage. "Find them. No witnesses this time." Naomi looked at Alexandra, then at the secret door that led to Rebecca's old rooms. They were trapped, unless... "Rebecca found another way out," she whispered, remembering the journal. "The night she died, she wasn't running up the stairs, she was running down." Alexandra's eyes widened. "Oh, the tunnels, of course. Richard showed them to me once. They lead to the beach, but what? They're not stable. That's why Rebecca fell. The whole system could collapse. More footsteps. Closer now. Naomi thought of her mother, of Silas, of Rebecca's sad eyes in all those photographs. Sometimes survival meant taking impossible risks. "We don't have a choice," she said, helping Alexandra up. "Or let's hope the Kingsley blood is good for something after all." They reached for the hidden lever just as the door burst open behind them, and somewhere above, a clock struck midnight, marking the moment when everything would either end or begin anew. The tunnel entrance closed behind them with a sound like a tomb sealing shut. Naomi's flashlight beam revealed rough stone walls and ancient wooden support beams, everything slick with seawater and time. "More this way!" Alexandra clutched the case of treatment vials, her injured shoulder leaving dark drops on the stone floor. The beach access should be half a mile east. Behind them, muffled voices echoed through the wall. Marcus Chen's security team would find the entrance soon enough. They had minutes, at most. "Naomi!" Silas's voice crackled through their earpieces. "Federal agents are entering the property, but Chen's men have the tunnels mapped. They're sealing all exits." "Not all of them," she replied, helping Alexandra navigate a treacherous slope. "Rebecca found something they didn't know about. We just have to—" She stopped. There, carved into the wall, was a familiar symbol, the same one from Rebecca's journal, an arrow pointing down with a double helix wrapped around it. "Richard's mark," Alexandra breathed. "He used to leave signs for me, back when we were first documenting Protocol Zero's effects. Look," Naomi pointed to fresh scratches around the symbol. "Rebecca found these. She was following them the night she died." A distant explosion rocked the tunnel. Dust and small stones rained down. "They're blasting the other exits," Grace reported through the comm. "Trying to force you back to the house. Mr. Rivers is leading the federal agents to the lab, but Chen's team is—" Static cut her off. "We're losing the signal," Alexandra said. "These tunnels are too deep." They pressed on, following Richard's symbols. The path sloped steadily downward, the air growing thicker with salt and decay. Their footsteps echoed strangely, suggesting larger spaces beyond the walls. Another explosion, closer this time. A support beam groaned ominously. "Wait!" Alexandra stopped, breathing hard. "There's something you need to know about Rebecca, about that night. We don't have time. She found me." Alexandra's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "That's what no one knew. She tracked me down, learned everything about Protocol Zero, but she also discovered something worse. The board. They weren't just planning to control bloodlines. They were going to test Protocol Omega on the entire East Coast. Through the water supply." Naomi's blood ran cold. "What? The tunnels?" Alexandra gestured at the walls. "They're not just escape routes, they're access points to the aquifer. That's why Richard built his lab here. He was trying to prevent—" Gunfire erupted behind them. A bullet sparked off the stone by Naomi's head. They ran, splashing through puddles that were growing deeper. The tunnel widened into a larger chamber filled with ancient pumping equipment. Multiple passages branched off, each marked with faded symbols. "Which way?" Naomi gasped. Alexandra studied the walls frantically. "I don't. These markings are different. Rebecca must have—" More gunfire. Marcus Chen's voice echoed. "It ends here, Dr. Rivers. You too, Ms. Ellison, or should I say Mrs. Kingsley?" Naomi pushed Alexandra behind a rusty pump. "How did they know about the aquifer? About Protocol Omega?" "Because I told them." Victoria stepped out of a side tunnel, her face ghostly in the flashlight beam. Her arm was bandaged where Grace had shot her. "Just like I told them about Rebecca finding Alexandra. About Richard's secret lab." "You?" Alexandra's voice broke. "You're the one who pushed Rebecca." "Yes." Victoria's laugh was hollow. "She trusted me, called me her friend. But she didn't understand what Protocol Omega could achieve. Perfect genetic control. No more disease, no more genetic disorders. A perfect human race. Through mass poisoning," Naomi's grip tightened on Diana's stolen pistol. "Through murder. Through necessary sacrifice." Victoria raised her own weapon. "Like father, like daughter, both of you too idealistic to see the bigger picture." "The picture seems pretty clear to me." Silas stepped out of the shadows, his own gun trained on Victoria. His perfect suit was dirty and torn, his face streaked with dust. "The federal agents have the board in custody," he said. "It's over, Victoria. The evidence is already public." "You think that matters?" She smiled, an edge of madness in it. "Protocol Omega is already in the system. Has been for weeks, small doses, building up. By tomorrow morning—" The rest of her words were lost in a deafening rumble. The ceiling groaned. Cracks appeared in the ancient stone. On the explosions, Alexandra realized. They've destabilized. The chamber shuddered. Water began pouring through the cracks. "The treatment," Alexandra gasped, clutching the case. "If it gets diluted—" Victoria lunged for the case. Naomi fired Diana's pistol, but Victoria was already moving. The two women crashed together, fighting for control of the treatment that could save thousands of lives. "Naomi!" Silas moved to help, but Chen's men had reached the chamber. Gunfire filled the space. Through the chaos, Naomi caught a glimpse of Alexandra rushing to the pumping equipment, treatment case in hand. The older woman's face was set with terrible purpose. "The main line!" Alexandra shouted over the din. "It can still reach the whole system." Naomi understood. The treatment had to go into the water supply, just like Protocol Omega. But as salvation instead of poison, Victoria realized it too. She broke away from Naomi, raising her gun at Alexandra. Time slowed. Naomi saw Rebecca's face in her mind, not from the photographs, but as she must have looked in her final moments, determined, unafraid. She threw herself at Victoria just as the gun fired. Pain bloomed in her shoulder. They crashed into the pump together. Victoria's head struck metal with a sickening crack. Water was everywhere now. The ceiling was coming down in chunks. "It's done." Alexandra's voice seemed to come from far away. "The treatment's in the system." "Naomi!" Silas was there, pulling her up. "We have to go. Now!" They ran through the flooding tunnel, following Alexandra's lead. Behind them, Chen and his men were shouting, trying to escape the collapse. "There!" Alexandra pointed to a metal-runged ladder. "Emergency exit. It leads—" The tunnel gave one final massive shudder. Naomi felt Silas push her forward, heard Alexandra cry out. Then everything was noise and water and darkness. Her last thought, before the black took her, was of Rebecca, of how the truth always finds its way to light, no matter how deep it's buried. 3 months later, Naomi stood at Rebecca's grave, autumn leaves dancing around her feet. The headstone had been replaced with a new one, bearing the full truth at last. Rebecca Ann Kingsley, beloved sister, daughter, and seeker of truth. The light always finds a way. "I thought I'd find you here." Silas approached, carrying 2 coffee cups, a ritual they'd developed during her recovery. The board meeting just ended. The company's transformation is official. Naomi accepted the coffee, her recently healed shoulder still stiff. "Boom, how did the shareholders take it?" "Better than expected. Turns out even billionaires care about their genetic legacy." He smiled wryly. "Kingsley Pharmaceuticals is now the leading researcher in genetic repair therapy, thanks to Alexandra's work. All Protocol Zero and Omega research has been turned over to federal oversight. And the survivors, getting stronger every day. The treatment worked better than we hoped. Mum's latest tests show no trace of genetic manipulation." He paused, studying her face. "Have you thought more about my offer?" Naomi touched Rebecca's headstone, feeling the rough stone under her fingers. After the tunnel collapse, they'd all barely escaped. Naomi with a bullet wound, Alexandra with a broken arm, Silas with a concussion. Victoria's body had never been found, though the search continued. Marcus Chen and most of the board were in federal custody, along with Diana Frost. The truth about Protocol Zero and Omega had shocked the world. Hundreds of families came forward, their mysterious illnesses finally explained. Alexandra Rivers emerged as a hero, her decades of hidden research saving countless lives. "I have thought about it," Naomi said finally. "Running the new Kingsley Foundation for Genetic Justice. It's a big responsibility." "You're a Kingsley," Silas said it simply, the words no longer carrying pain or confusion. More importantly, you understand what's at stake. The victims, their families. They need someone who knows their struggle. Like Mom does. Olivia's already agreed to head the medical advisory board. He grinned. Apparently, all those nursing degrees she earned while raising you weren't just for show. A familiar voice called from the cemetery path. There you are. Grace hurried toward them, her copper hair bright against her new business suit. As head of foundation operations, she'd traded her maid's uniform for corporate wear. Alexandra's waiting at the mansion. The contractors need final approval on the East Wing renovations. They were converting the entire wing into a research and treatment center for Protocol Zero survivors. Rebecca's rooms would become a memorial library, preserving the truth she died trying to expose. Mr. Rivers is there too, Grace added softly. He's finally ready to go through Alexandra's old office. The elderly gardener had struggled to adjust to his wife's return, decades of grief and secrets creating a distance between them, but they were healing, just like the mansion itself. We should head back, Silas said. The press conference is at noon. Naomi nodded, but didn't move. Can you give me a minute? They left her alone with Rebecca's grave and her thoughts. So much had changed since that first morning when she'd walked into the wrong bathroom. The shy maid, determined to remain invisible, had become someone else entirely, someone stronger, braver, more like the sister she'd never known she had. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Dinner tonight. Alexandra's bringing her latest research, and Mr. Rivers is cooking. Family meeting. Family. The word filled her with warmth. I wish I'd known you, she whispered to Rebecca's grave. But in a way, I did. You led us to the truth, piece by piece. And now, she touched the Foundation's business card in her pocket, now I'll help make sure nothing like this happens to anyone else. The autumn wind lifted her hair, carrying the salt scent of the ocean. Somewhere in the distance, a lighthouse beam swept across the morning fog. The same lighthouse where she and Silas had sworn to uncover the truth, back when they thought their connection was something different. What they'd found instead was better, deeper, a bond of blood and purpose and shared legacy. Her phone buzzed again. A news alert. Kingsley Foundation launches worldwide genetic justice initiative. Naomi Kingsley, named executive director. She hadn't officially accepted the position yet, but looking at Rebecca's grave, she knew her answer. Some doors, once opened, led exactly where you were meant to go, even if the path wasn't what you expected. Time to stop being invisible, she murmured, and turned toward the mansion that no longer felt like a prison of secrets, but a place of healing. Silas waited by the car, her brother now in all the ways that mattered. Grace was talking animatedly about renovation plans, and through the morning mist, Kingsley Manor rose like a promise of better things to come. Naomi took one last look at Rebecca's grave. A shaft of sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating the words, "Light always finds a way." Yes, she thought, yes, it does. She walked toward her family, toward her future, toward a legacy reborn from the ashes of secrets and lies. The autumn wind scattered leaves in her wake, and somewhere she could have sworn she heard Rebecca's laugh, not sad now, but triumphant. The truth had finally come home. The end in. She mistook the bathroom for the billionaire's office. Naomi has to choose between remaining invisible and safe, or risking everything to uncover the truth and save her family. What about you? Have you ever experienced a moment when you had to choose between hiding or exposing yourself for something bigger than yourself? What would you do in her place? Your participation in this channel is very important. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment your thoughts. Your participation is very important to us. See you next time.